Brought to you by Penguin. The Thing About December by Donal Ryan. Read by Donal Ryan.
For Anne-Marie with love. January. Mother always said January is a lovely month. Everything starts over again in the new year. The visitors are all finished with, and you won't see sight nor hear sound of them until next Christmas with the help of God. Before you know it, you'll see a stretch in the evenings. The calving starts in January, and as each new life wobbles into the slatted house, your wealth grows a little bit. It'll want to. You have to try and claw back what was squandered in December on rubbish that no one really wanted. The bit of frost kills any lingering badness. That's the thing about January. It makes the world fresh. That's what Mother used to say anyway, back when she used to have a lot more to say for herself. Eugene Penrose and his pals were sitting on the low wall in front of the IRA memorial again. Isn't it a fright to God to say a man can't walk home without being tormented by yahoos every single day? A few times lately, Eugene had clipped Johnsey's heel as he walked past them, and he had stumbled and nearly fallen. How could they be always there anyway? The dole is great, Mother says. It allows thugs to live like little lords. How is it he couldn't be a proper man, besides creeping along like a red-faced child, afraid of his own shadow, with tears of shame stinging at his eyes? Daddy wouldn't have put up with it, that's for sure. People used to be afraid of Johnsey's father. He'd give ground to no man. He loved a good row at the mart or at a match or above in the yard about the worth of a player or the price of a beast or anything you could imagine men might argue about. But he was as well known for his kindness as for his fury. His kindness was never taken for weakness, though. Daddy was a tough yoke. He'd shouldered many a big forward into the middle of next week in his days playing hurling. Johnsey had often heard that said, or something like it. Once he had worn a hurley off of a lad in pure solid temper, and the same lad was never again right after it. Johnsey had only heard that said once, and when the man saying it saw that he was listening, he stopped talking and looked into his glass of whiskey and turned red. If he thought about something else while he walked the 100-odd steps from the start of the low wall to the far end of the churchyard, he could nearly caught himself that they weren't there at all, watching him coming, looking forward to making little of him. Like the deep pool in the stream down past the weeping willow at the far end of the river field as you start towards the Shannon Callows, where he and Daddy used to swim. Sometimes Johnsey wondered what would it be like to lie down under that water, and when all the breath in his lungs was gone, just stay down there and breathe in water instead of air. Maybe a miracle would happen, like the ones that happened below in Cork years ago, where the statue of the Virgin Mary came alive and said hello to everyone and cried blood over the state of the world. Mother said it was the state of the hairy mollies gawking up at her that made her cry. Wouldn't you cry too if you had that shower roaring the holy rosary up at you night and day? Maybe, instead of drowning, he'd discover he had superhuman powers, that he was able to live under the water and could control the streams and the rivers and the sea and all that lived there. And he could live there himself and be a king with a deadly sharp three-pronged fork and loads of beautiful mermaids swimming around with no bras on and making him his dinner and kissing him. Maybe when he gets home, Mother will have a tart made for after the dinner, and she'll be just taking it out of the oven when he arrives. He'll eat a huge cut of it, and she'll stand behind him with a mug of tea, just a tiny drop of milk, otherwise it's ruined, Mother says, and tell him how them apples were still growing outside not even an hour ago. He'll tell her it was a lovely dinner, and she'll say, was it, pet? I hope it was. We need a good dinner after your hard day. These days, though, nearly always, she would have his dinner left in the oven, and it would be blistering hot or freezing cold. She sometimes left the oven on too high, or forgot to leave it on at all, and she herself would be above at the height where Daddy was buried.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?